Brady threw 4 touchdown passes in the Patriots' win yesterday. Dak Prescott threw 3 touchdown passes, and Ezekiel Elliott had over 100 total yards in the Cowboys' win. Skip?
Yes, before we start.
Yes.
My man Lil Wayne just texted me that we're being way too hard on his Green Bay Packers and his quarterback Aaron Rodgers, and you would probably agree with that.
Well, I would. I mean, everything that was wrong. In fact, I was going to tweet last night to my dear friend, the attorney over here, that Aaron Rodgers is missing all those tackles on defense and couldn't cover anybody. And I think what really Lil Wayne has to come to the realization, much of the Packer Nation has to as well, is they're just not very good. And they have a lot of injuries, but they're just not as talented as they have been in the past. The thing that Jared Cook showed last night, and I know this is off the tangent, but he showed that if they had a tight end that could make some plays in there, and it's not Richard Rodgers, that perhaps it would really help them. You know what James Stark also showed if they had a back? To me, last night was an indictment of all the games they've lost. Because if they would have had a legitimate back or signed one, like Starks was running the ball, that would have helped. If they would have had another tight end like Cook, that would have helped them. So to me, Counselor, that game proves my case about Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, let's get back to things that matter.
Who is your MVP right now?
Well, Chris Healy, the producer of the show, won't let me vote for the Cowboys' offensive line, so I got deterred from that. I'm going to go with Dak's because I think Dak has done something unlike, as we talked about in an earlier segment. He's not a rookie. He's not a fourth-round pick any longer. And I do believe that he is really the reason why the Cowboys are winning. And it's funny, the most valuable player this year will truly be the most valuable player because they are carrying a side of the football. They are helping their defense, whether it's Brady, Dak, or whomever. They're carrying their entire team because if they don't play well, like you said, their defense can't stand alone. And I think that's truly the most valuable player. And in this case, this is why I think the quarterback yesterday was the one that twisted me to Dak because the Ravens went into the game saying, we're going to force you to beat us. We're going to force you to make the plays, force you to make the throws. We're a good defense. We're going to press you. Can you do it? At some point, you're going to have to be a rookie. And he wasn't. So he's my MVP. Go ahead. The floor's yours.
This was tough for me. But after all my evaluations on my 5-hour flight back from Atlanta, I had an indication. I said, you know what? Somehow Skip is going to want to talk about this guy from Mississippi State.
He could be from Mississippi Valley State. Jerry Rice.
I went with Russell Wilson because I think he has the higher degree of difficulty. Because if Dak doesn't play well, he could lean on the NFL's leading rusher. Tom Brady, if he doesn't play well, he could lean on the NFL's 5th leading rusher in LeGarrette Blount. If Russell Wilson doesn't play well, they're not winning.
But he can lean on his defense.
Yeah, but
That's the only reason why
they're normally top 5. They're not the Legion of Boom that we remember 2012, 2013.
Carson Wentz said?
Well, you already out on Carson Wentz anyway. But Skip, if you look at what he's doing. They can't run the football. The offensive line as a total is only making $9 million. His last 3 games, they had 8 total touchdowns, 6 pass, 1 rush. Caught one yesterday, Skip. Look at this. He caught a touchdown. He caught a touchdown yesterday.
The throw to Jimmy Graham might be one of the greatest throws of this season.
And for what he's doing with no running game, his offensive line, like I said, I get the case for everybody else, but for my money and what he's doing right now, give me Russell Wilson. A high ankle sprain, sprained knee, finally running into shape, starting to look like Russell Wilson. And he only had everybody, he's a dual threat. The guy has 79 yards rushing. He's not a dual threat quarterback anymore. He's throwing the ball from the pocket. I got Russ.
Do 3 games an MVP make? Because I'll give you 3 games.
They're 7-2-1.
Huh?
They're 7-2-1.
Yeah, but he really struggled for the previous however many games they played. 7 games.
Oh, I agree. We don't make excuses. He was injured. You know that. I know that. But it doesn't matter. He's still my MVP. Yes, he's my MVP.
You know what? I'm glad you picked Russell Wilson because you're helping make the case that I made to start this show. And it is making me angry, not at you, but just in the big picture, that Dak Prescott still is not getting nearly enough credit for what he's pulling off because it is extraordinary. And I'm going to say again what I told you at the top of the show. We opened this show, inaugural show, September 6th, and I told you I'd never seen it in all my years since the mid-'70s covering this league, I've never seen a rookie quarterback, play with such poise, maturity, presence, and accuracy in 3 preseason games as I saw this kid. And the third one was at Seattle, full dress rehearsal against that Seahawks Legion of Boom defense. And he has picked it up, and he just gets better and better. And his greatest achievement, I think we all agree.
And the other conversation we never hear out of Dallas is they don't have enough weapons around them. Usually when a quarterback struggles, it's because, well, they really, they don't have weapons around them. You never hear that conversation. Even when Dez was out, they moved the ball effectively. The offense runs. He can deliver the ball with accuracy. He puts it in the right spot. The throw to Beasley for the first touchdown was really a great throw on the move. So everything he does, to me, has indicated that he's risen his game as the season has gone on. And he's met every single challenge, and mentally and physically, and he hasn't tired. He hasn't hit the wall. Wentz might have hit the wall. Yeah. There's some rookies that hit the wall. Yeah. This kid hasn't he's run through the wall. And I think that's why you have to give him great consideration for it, because the Cowboys have changed who they are as a football team. They are workmanlike. They are consistent as could be. I know this is painful for you, but it's true. I mean, we all have to accept reality, and I think that he has changed who the Cowboys are. And this is not a knock on Tony Romo. And I'll say this. I don't think Jason Witten is half the player he once was.
No.
Ozzie Newsome once told me that when he got towards the end of his career, he felt when his legs were going, he started to drop footballs. This is back in '92. Ever since that time, he told me that when great players who have great hands start to drop balls, I always believe they're starting to lose their legs. And it looks to me like Jason Witten isn't the same player. That doesn't mean he's not going to make a lot of great plays, but he's dropping footballs that you typically never see him drop.
And that's, what, Skip, you say he doesn't get the accolades like a Brady and all these other guys. The dish is not what you pay for. You go to a fancy restaurant, they give you a steak, they give you a piece of fish. It's the garnishments.
They call it presentation.
Yeah, there in life. He doesn't have he's just a nice here's a watch. You're not going to wrap it for me. You're not going to let me take the ball off it.
But everybody keeps moving the line on the kid. Everybody keeps saying, well, if he goes into Green Bay and beats Green Bay, I'll buy him. Everybody says, well, if he goes into Pittsburgh and beats Pittsburgh, I'll buy him. And then he does. And
Eric Mangini sat right there in that seat and said, because he coached the San Francisco defense, he said he's going to have a hard time against this defense in Santa Clara. I don't know about
Jerry
this.
names him the starter. I'm on the bandwagon. The day Jerry named him the starter, I'm getting me a Dak Prescott jersey, and I'm wearing it on the air.
Whoa.
That's all Jerry got to do,
Jerry,
Skip, and
please do that. I'm going to hold you to that.
Jerry has named
No, Jerry named nothing. Jerry said nothing.
Thanks for joining us, Michael. Be sure to download the Make Me Smarter Football Podcast with Michael and Nick Wright. New episode out tomorrow. Michael, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Coming up, are the Raiders in the driver's seat in the AFC West? Skip and Shannon debate that next.
Thank you.
The Packers are losing and Aaron Rodgers continues to get called out. An anonymous source close to him told Bleacher Report that Rodgers is a bleeping Ted case. And Rodgers' former teammate, Jermichael Finley, said this about Rodgers. I didn't really know how he showed his leadership. He wasn't a vocal guy. He really wasn't a hands-on guy. To tell you the truth, it was all about his game and his stats, in my opinion. He was a guy that kept it all in. He kept grudges close to his chest. If you did something, he never really let it go. I just don't think he was a natural-born leader. He wasn't put on earth to lead. But Aaron Rodgers is so scared of what guys are going to say that he doesn't say anything at all. He goes into his little shell. He's not a guy who hangs out with the fellas. He's really self-centered. Skip, how much of off-the-field issues affected Rodgers on the field?
A lot. I've been saying for 3 years on this show and my old show that Aaron Rodgers, or as everybody calls him, Aaron Bleepin' Rodgers, has been overhyped and overrated just because of the issues brought up in this piece written by a former beat writer of the Packers named Tyler Dunn. And it was well done by Tyler. And I've been saying for 3 years, I wouldn't want to play with Aaron because as talented, as gifted as he is, he's also quick to point fingers and quick to deflect blame onto teammates. And then slowly but surely we had Greg Jennings come on my old show and then on this show and back me up on how thin-skinned he can be.
Donald Driver said something.
Donald Driver did. Well said. And this story just drove it all home for me. And I don't want to get too deeply into the issues he has with his family because I'm not sure about those. But I am sure about what Jermichael Finley said, what Greg Jennings has said, what Donald Driver has said. Did the family issues affect Aaron on the field? Who knows? Hard to know. But relationships or lack thereof with teammates do affect a team over time. And as they start to struggle, and obviously they're beat up on defense, beat up in the offensive line, and I give Aaron Rodgers all that. But even last night, right away, early in the game, Jared Cook, who became kind of a security blanket, new target for him last night as he got back healthy. Right away, Jared Cook ran a route on an incomplete, and Aaron's saying, you know, it's just so blatant and bold on national TV. He's showing him up. And if I'm Shannon Sharp or Jared Cook, I'm not taking that. I'm going to say something to him like, just keep it to yourself. Let's talk about it at halftime or after the game, but maybe over on the bench for a second. But
as a receiver, when you make a mistake, you know it. Let's keep that between you and me. The crowd doesn't need to know.
No.
The national television, the people that's watching at home don't need to know.
Right. So last night, Aaron Rodgers, against a pretty bad Washington defense, made some terrific throws, some with the wind, some against the wind. He also threw a bunch of mystery balls to me where it's not Aaron Rodgers. He's just a little off. Like, what was that? You missed him wide open. You're late. You're here. You're high. You're behind. I don't know. And as Tyler Dunn concluded in this piece, right now the Packers are an ordinary team with an ordinary quarterback. And this year, Aaron Rodgers has been ordinary. And I appreciated everything that Jermichael said, as tough as it is, and as you could say, he should have kept all this to himself. It's all locker room kind of stuff, but I've heard it before, and he just went to second and third levels with it. They didn't speak to each other. He said that he'd pass Aaron in the hall. Aaron wouldn't even acknowledge him in the hall, to the point that Mike McCarthy, on Saturday nights before games, finally instituted a new policy. He made them sit together for an hour just so they had to interact and talk about the next day's game. Wow. Well, that's the Aaron Rodgers I've come to know from a distance, right?
Yep.
So after a while, not a natural-born leader. And again, this piece points out that the new State Farm ad where he's screaming in the locker room, not here, not ever, is not Aaron Rodgers. He's acting, and he's playing a part, and it's misleading to the public. They think, oh, he's a big rah-rah. He's not a rah-rah guy at all. So in the end, I appreciated the piece. I thought it was insightful. I thought it was enlightening. And I thought it gave you a window into why Aaron Rodgers is struggling with his team in the locker room and on the sideline and in the huddle as well as on the football field.
Skip, I said when he was struggling early this year, I said unless he has an injury or there's something going on with him off the field. But this is not the Aaron Rodgers that I know. I'm not going to get into the family dynamic because I'm not TMZ. I'm not the National Enquirer. That's not what I do. I evaluate the player. Skip,
and it was, by the way, one anonymous source, so whatever. Jermichael's on the record.
Skip, I stand by. Now I'm doubling down. I said 6 or 7 years ago on my old show, I said he's not a leader, and just because he's a great talent doesn't mean he's a leader, and guys like playing with him. And the Packers, well, how do you know? You're not up here every day. You don't know what's going on. I know, because I was in the locker room for 14 years. And so I know people. I know guys in the locker room. I can read their body language.
Yep.
He's smug. He's condescending. He's aloof. Those are not great traits to have if you are going to be a leader of men. Because if guys think you don't care about them, you're dismissive because you're so much superiorly talented than they are. Skip, John and I were very, very good friends.
John Elway.
John Elway, my quarterback from 90 to 98. I text him from time to time. I pick up the phone. If I call him, he doesn't answer the phone. He'll call me back by the end of the day. There were times that he didn't play like the John Elway that I know he could play like. I would always tell him, you're my favorite horse if you never win another race. I wanted him to know that I was in his corner. And if I made a mistake or I dropped the pass, he would always say, T, I know you'll get the next one. That's what you need to be a leader. And see, we dismissed every time a receiver said something, Greg Jennings, Donald Driver, who it was, oh, that's sour grapes.
Come to find out, Joy Taylor, there are a lot of guys he knows grapes. Because there are a lot of guys that got sour grapes on it.
Yeah.
I told you, there are 3 types of people that'll tell you the truth. Angry people, drunks, and kids. I'm telling you, I know this guy. Look, I don't know Aaron Rodgers personally, but if I would in that locker room when I did that interview and the mere thought of mentioning his name, guys didn't want to touch it.
Yep.
Go to any locker room. Go to Baltimore. Go to Denver. Don't ask the players because they're going to have to tell you the truth. No, John Elway's going to have to be politically correct. Rob Smith, guys that are known, going to ask the guys that people really don't know. What was Shannon like? Ask the equipment guy. Ask the trainers, what was he really like? Then and only then can you get a true interpretation of what a player is actually like. Skip, I knew it from day. I knew it when I went and did the interview in Green Bay, walking through that locker, walking through the hallways, talking to the guy.
What year was it? How many years ago?
It had to be 6 or 7.
Okay, so he was at his height. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. You know what? It might have not been that long ago. He might have just won the MVP.
Okay.
It might have been 5 years ago. But I know it, Skip. I know Skip. It's just like when you're around reporters. You know reporters. You know the good ones. You know the bad ones. You know the ones you can trust. You know that. Being a player for 14 years, and I started at the bottom. So I wasn't always the guy in the locker room. So I had to mingle and mix and match with a lot of different guys. It wasn't always John Elway was my best friend or Steve Atwater was Steve was because, he was a defensive back and we always talked. But I worked my way up. But I also knew, starting at the bottom, and all of a sudden now I'm the guy, I would always talk to the guys that weren't the guys. Because I never wanted them to think that I was better than they was, just because I was a better player. We're in this together. I wanted guys, if you want to ask me something, hey, ask me. I'm always willing to talk. But I'm not surprised. People like, I can't believe that's. Stop thinking what you see, the 2 hours you see a guy throwing a football, or a guy tackling, a guy catching passes that you think you know him. This is who he is. Here's a guy that interacted with around him, because I tell you this. Guys spend, players, athletes, spend more time around their teammates than they do their own family. You can fool the media because you get up there in front of a press conference, you put the fake smile on and do the coach's spiel and all that. You can do the commercials. You can't fool them guys in the locker room because they see you every day. They see you come to work. They see you at work. They see you leave. You can't fool them. And you couldn't fool me. He couldn't fool me. This is who Aaron Rodgers is. I'm not surprised that Jermichael Finley took this strong of a stance because I've heard it before from other guys that didn't say it publicly. And I knew it to be true.
So do you think in the New England locker room there's love for Tom Brady? Tremendous love.
Peyton Manning.
I agree. Peyton Manning.
Drew Brees.
You got it. So when those teams struggle, as Green Bay is struggling, and obviously there are legit excuses, defense, offensive line can't run the ball, but he still has some weapons that he can throw to.
Yes.
So there are times, like you keep bringing up, where even last night, certainly with the wind, they had a chance to get back in the game because he can still throw it and they can still catch it.
Right.
But when there's not that basis, that reservoir of love between the quarterback and the receivers, then something's missing. And as soon as one thing goes wrong, he throws one errant pass, the receivers are like, he's going to point the finger at me. And so I thought Green Bay started quitting last night. It felt like a quit to me, a total quit, because they don't trust the quarterback because they don't like the quarterback in the end. So they're not going to play. They're not going to give up, give their bodies for the quarterback to stay, to fight and hang in a football game.
And as bad as this defense is, and the Packers defense are atrocious, that doesn't mean Aaron Rodgers can't score every time he touches the football.
Yeah.
I mean, there's not a limit that says, Aaron, you can only score on 5 or 6 of your possessions. That they don't say that. So Aaron Rodgers, and he played well last night. And this is, but I think what we're discussing is who this man is and why he doesn't get, because you don't see them guys talking about, oh, yeah, Aaron's my guy. Oh, boy, I love playing with Aaron Rodgers. You hear guys, I love playing with Tom Brady. I love playing with Peyton Manning. Michael Irvin, love for Troy Aikman. My love for John. All I know is that every guy that has taken the shot, Maybe they felt comfortable once they were away from there, because you don't want to take a shot at a guy while you're there, because you know he has so much cachet. He can definitely get you out of there. So when you get your opportunity and it presents itself and someone asks you and you want me to speak openly and honestly, I'm going to answer you openly and honestly. This is who Aaron Rodgers is. Hey, he's a great talent. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But this explains why some of his teammates feel the way they feel about him.
Well, usually this stuff comes out when you start losing. Obviously, when you're having fun and winning, there's nothing bad to say. But we've been hearing this for so long, even when they were winning, like you said, that it's starting to become more clear. Coming up, who is the NFL's most valuable player right now? Michael Lombardi is back with us with his pick next.